Hey, Kelly.
Hello, Zach.
How's it going?
All right, it's going well. How about you?
Living this Alberta dream.
You've had an impressive list of guests on your podcast. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm glad to have you on there. So that's exciting. Thank you for
Thank
doing
you.
this. How's your home office doing?
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Yeah, it's kind of nice to work out of the house.
Yeah. Do you miss going out there to the headquarters?
That's a great question. Part of it I do because it's been a big part of my life for so many years, right? I've traveled to Toronto for every weekend for, 10 years or more. And I've been going to Toronto, working out of Toronto in the playoffs for 20 some years. So, when you get used to a city like that and you enjoy it, yeah, you miss some of those things, but I certainly do like working out of the house also.
I was looking into your book, Calling the Shots. That's
okay.
a good book. Yes.
Thanks, buddy.
That's awesome.
Is that a zebra?
That's a zebra. Yeah. So I was born in Tanzania, East Africa, and I've had this ever since I was like a baby, and I've just been going house to house, and I'm like, I'm gonna keep it up. It wasn't me. Yeah, it could be a little controversial, but it works.
Well,
you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Kelly, so I wanted to dive into a little bit on mental health. I know you've brought it up in May, and it's okay to not kind of hide behind something. Doing okay.
It has been something that's been in our family for what we've openly shared. She was, this is going back. National Post did articles on her, and were different, but they beautifully captured her spirit. And I mentioned what I called an episode content. They were just to stay in touch with people and so on, and maybe share the odd hockey story. And that day I got up and I was like, I know people kind of, were waiting for a story on Friday, and I had nothing to give. And so I think I went without one week, and then following week I did the video with it's okay. And I think my message was just very clear to everybody. If you're going through something, don't do it alone. It's too difficult. You don't have to put yourself through all those painful experiences, and just talk and get it out in the open, and you will be surprised by the support. It's heartwarming. I got to tell you, really heartwarming. When Caitlin, going back to her story back in 2013, I was on the road. I was in St. Louis, and she was here back in Calgary, and I got scared for her the night before. So we had a nice chat, and I said, okay, I'm kind of worried about social media and, all the bashers and haters and people that take shots at everybody on social media. So I thought maybe I should ask her if she still wants to go through this. She said she did. And I got to tell you, Zach, much to my surprise, she didn't have one hater. Not one person attacked her. Not one person made fun of her. It was just so beautiful and that's the message that we always send, that it's okay. Some people wake up and just, they're not going to have a good day, and it's okay to talk about it. And it's really, it's so beautiful to me that all of us are having these conversations. Like, listen, honestly, two grown men like you and I talking about mental health, 10 years ago, 15 for sure, that just was not happening.
What would people do 15 years ago?
Suffer in silence. It's pretty much it. I think for some people, they were seeking help. And I know for Caitlin, our daughter, we started getting her help in the summer of 2005, when her life became completely unmanageable. And, I still look back on those days, and I don't blame myself, because I didn't know trouble was lurking. I didn't know what to look for back then. I certainly didn't ask the right questions, but she had all these things going on in her life that I took them as quirky little habits. And had I put them all together, Zach, I would have clearly known sooner that she had some problems, until finally one day she was getting dropped off at school, the first day of school, in fact, for grade 7 for her, and she couldn't get out of the car. I wasn't there. My wife was there. And my wife, Donna, came back to the house and said, if only you could have seen the sheer look of fear on her face. So that day was the day we started getting therapy for her. We were lucky. We found a great psychologist here in Calgary, Dr. Kelly Miraz, and he started her on her path to getting better.
Was it anxiety, or was it bullying, or was it something that held her back?
For her, it's anxiety and OCD. And She still has it to this day. It's interesting, Zach, this in a funny kind of way. Like, we do joke about it when, everybody's in a good place mentally and stuff. I'll tell you two stories. So during this pandemic, my wife and I were really afraid of what she was going to be going through mentally, because her fears are of disease and dying. So she wakes up every day thinking of those two thoughts, right? And so we thought, oh my gosh, with this pandemic, we're afraid to bring it up to her, and didn't want her to start overthinking it again. And after a few days, we asked her how she's doing. She said, you know what? I'm doing fine, because I wake up every day and it's a pandemic, and it's been that way for years. So that never occurred to us, right? So every day for years and years, it's, a terrible, she can have terrible thoughts about that. And secondly, what we try and do in fun is we'll ask her, so what do you have today? And she'll say, well, I've got a brain tumor, or I've got, some other disease or terrible ailment. And so we can laugh at that, because it is what happens to her. Another example, Zach. So a few years ago, we're at the house, and we're sitting on the couch watching the 11 o'clock news at night. And there came a story on the news about a dairy farm in BC, and unfortunately they had an outbreak of E. coli. And all of a sudden I look over at Caitlin, and her eyes are about this big, and all of a sudden I could see the wheels in her head turning, that she has E. coli, even though she had not had any cheese from that dairy farm, or in a good long while. So that's just her life, and that's how we've sort of managed. By the way, I don't know if you saw my video, Zach, last week about going through what I went through and seeking help. And I had this shirt on, and it's her shirt, More Good Days. And it's just a beautiful story. But after 4 years of getting help, she came to us and said, yeah, I'm starting to have more good days than bad. And so this shirt has great meaning to us, and just beautiful.
Can anyone get it from anywhere? Or?
Yes, you can. In fact, they have a site on Instagram, and it's called, I'm glad you asked, because I wrote it down just in case. Perfect. It's called More Good Days Clothing.
More Good Days Clothing. Perfect.
And it's her and her husband, Hayden. Yeah. Hayden is an artist, and he does all the artwork, and it's beautiful. I recommend people going to their Instagram post and or my Instagram or Twitter, Twitter, because I posted the front and the back of the t-shirt, and it's just beautiful artwork, and it has great meaning also, because you can
back.
Yeah, and let's see if I can show you on the back. Can you see it?
That is cool. Wow.
And for me, it means it's a garden. And when we first started going to therapy with Kate, and one of the things we would do, we'd breathe together, and it could be for 15 minutes or it could be for 3 hours. And the goal was to get her to that garden. And so it signifies something really great to us.
Well, I just saw that and I smiled when you had come on. It just makes you happy. Just a reminder. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it's kind. Yeah,
it's very kind. And in fact, after I did that video last week, people sort of inundated their site, and they had some inventory, but they didn't know what they're going to expect, right? And so I think they sold out, and now they have a number of things on back order, I believe. And please, if it means something to you, go to their Instagram site and order. It's beautiful stuff.
Absolutely, we'll do so. Now, Kelly, how did you realize there's something wrong? Like, for the people that don't know the book or don't know fully your story.
Yeah.
Because you guys were in the Stanley Cup at the time.
Well, it's the year we went to the finals, but my episode, again, what I'll call it, I went through something for really bad for 2 months, but it was in the summer leading to the 92-93 season that I started to have these thoughts. Again, I didn't know they were irrational. I thought they made total sense to me. And the thoughts were that I can't keep doing this any longer. I can't keep playing at this level. They're all negative thoughts. And it was a loop going around in my head. The stats are true that most players play like 3.5 years at the most. So whenever you see a guy like Jerome McGinley or somebody, those aren't the real odds. The odds are you don't play very long. And I happened to be in my 10th year at the time, and I thought it was all coming crashing down all around me. And I couldn't stop that loop. And I only found out about the existence of a loop for people with mental health issues, again, is going through Caitlin and all her therapy, and she taught us that. And so that it was like late November when it really started to hit me. And we were in Milwaukee for one of those neutral site games back then. And I just had a breakdown or whatever the night before the game. I got through it somehow. And incredibly, I played great the next night. We beat Chicago and I was the first star, but then it just started chipping away. And finally, we were at home like 2-3 days or games later, and we played Montreal and we tied 5-5. Barry Melrose, our coach, comes in, and he had great intentions, by the way. And he's talking to us, and he said, and even Kelly can play better. And something in my brain just triggered right then. And I thought to myself, I didn't say it out loud, but I said, no, I can't. I can't play any better than this. And then that was the end of my playing well. I went right in a ditch. And luckily for me, Barry, again, my great coach, he figured out something that was wrong with me. And he hooked me up with Tony Robbins, and I was able to use Tony's expertise. And he did great work with me. And I realized that, my thoughts were all mixed up, and, I was on the road to recovery. It wasn't easy, and I didn't get out of it immediately, but over the course of time and the support of my coaches, Barry and Cap Rader, and my teammates, we went to the finals that year. It was really incredible journey for me. I ended up playing in the league 5 more years because of Barry getting involved with my well-being.
It's, we always say it's an internal game, and it's 100% that. Was it fear-based? Is that what was stopping you? Or what was it that was stopping you? Was it the crowds? Was it the pucks coming at you? What was it? Or was it just something in here that was saying,
There's something in my head, and the fact that I was going to lose my livelihood. I was a dad of soon to be 3 daughters. At that time, we only had 2, but our third daughter, Caitlin, was born in late January. So maybe that was part of it as well, that, you got to make money, and I'm a guy. And so maybe that had something to do with it. I've never really overanalyzed that. And, but there's lots of things going on in my head. And like I said, I just could not stop it. It was constant.
Can you imagine sleeping with that too? It's tough.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny how the more you talk about these things, you heal through it all. So like when you help Caitlin go to that, you're healing in it as well and learning. Is it constantly for you now? And would you say are you 100 now or better?
I'm getting better. I made clear in my video last week that I'm seeing somebody, and I'm feeling way better, like holy, not even close. And just feeling more confident, more like myself. And I'm looking for the upcoming weeks because I know that it's going to be, a journey, but a good one. And I'm willing to really dive in. That's the thing that I think is a quality I have. Like when I first saw my guy a few weeks ago, I just bared all. Like I told him what I was feeling and why. And it made a big, big difference. Really big difference.
Was it odd to commentate during the pandemic in the bubble?
It was, and everything's different. For the first, I think something like the first 40 days or something, I did it all out of my office in the basement, which I kind of liked. I have to admit it. It was a different schedule, and I kind of liked it. I got used to it over the course of time. But there was something in me that I thought near the end of the playoffs that I should go to Toronto, and because it's a different broadcasting atmosphere when you're in a studio with everybody there. And it was because I had a time delay, same with Cassie Campbell Pascal. And so that sort of interrupted our ability to interact with the panel. So you felt a little bit removed with that. And so I felt the need to go to Toronto and see if it could be better there for me. And part of it was, I have to admit though, again, my brain was a little bit too hyperactive. And near the end of the playoffs, right in the finals, I started really paying attention to the rising pandemic numbers in Toronto. and they were really starting to skyrocket, and that scared me. And I wanted to go home. So that was a challenging weekend. I got to tell you, I even talked to my bosses, and they were fantastic. Zach, they were outrageously kind. They said, if you need to go home, you can. So, but I gutted it out, and I'm glad I did. But yeah, there's just the numbers to me. The whole pandemic scares me. Some people aren't as afraid as I am, and I guess I get that. But for me, it's been something that's really been top of mind.
Oh, it's your health as well. You got to take care of it.
Right? I'm a 60-year-old man. I mean, I'm not 25. Not that people in their 20s don't have issues as well, but I'm at that age where I have to be very careful.
Do you know a lot of people that got COVID or contracted the virus?
Well, some of our family members.
Oh no.
And we've had a number of friends. So yeah, I think everybody's in that same boat. Like I've said early on that I think everybody was affected by the pandemic in some way, whether it was mentally, physically, emotionally, and financially. And that's everybody. There's not a family that was excluded from that list that I just mentioned. And so it affected our kids and, their well-being. I don't mind sharing this also. Our daughter, Jessica, she's the mother to our grandson, Maverick, and soon to be, we're going to have another grandchild here in the next few weeks. But she's never had mental health issues, and the pandemic got the best of her. Like, it really got her. And so that's what I mean. It affected everybody. And I don't think people are telling the truth if they said that their family was excluded.
It's getting cold, darker night or longer nights. It's tough out there. And
yeah.
No hope. That's the other thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. How about you? Were you okay?
You know what? It affected me as well. Yeah. And then constantly hearing the news just wears you out. Like, I'm so tired of it, Kelly. These cases, these numbers, it started becoming a blend. The days started becoming a blend, and that's why I started podcasting. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start interacting with people because it's cool. Yeah.
Well, you're doing a great job, man. I've enjoyed our conversation so far, but I was so impressed. I went on your site and all the incredible guests you've had. So keep it up. This is good for people.
Thank you, Kelly. And I appreciate your time today. I had a question for you.
Yeah.
When you were a goalie and now you're a commentator, is it the same switch in your mind when it's go time?
Yes, kind of. The number one takeaway to think about how I go about my job and the similarities between playing pro sports and being a broadcaster is that it's live. So every mistake you make when you're playing goal it's there for people to see, and every mistake you make when you're doing broadcasting on a live show, again, your mistakes are out there. So you have to learn to accept that, and I do. That's sometimes it bothers me more than others, and I'm trying to learn, I guess, to not be as critical of myself and be kinder to myself. So, but other than that, there are no similarities between broadcasting and playing hockey. It happens to be the same sport, but to learn how to be a broadcaster is not anything you really learn in being a hockey player.
Of course. Do you get nervous in big crowds, or did that go way back? Like, was that gone?
That's a great question. I guess I go back and forth. It's the weirdest thing when you're a broadcaster and you're broadcasting to some nights millions of people, and depending on the show you're doing, if it's a national show, certainly millions, and if you're doing like a Flames regional, it'll be at sometimes hundreds of thousands, and that doesn't get me. In fact, it's the oddest thing sometimes. And I go public speaking, and some of the crowds, are 1,000 or 2, or I've done a couple of three former presidents. And for Bill Clinton, I did him in Kelowna at the arena. I think they're 5,500. And I did George W. Bush in Edmonton at the TELUS Convention Center. That didn't make me nervous. But you know what can? This is the oddest thing. If I'm asked to speak to a small group of people, like 10 or 12 or 15, that makes me more nervous. And I think it's maybe because it feels more personal, right? If you're
There's
speaking,
eyeballs and
yeah, if you're speaking to 1,000 people, it just doesn't seem nearly as personal. But there are tricks around that too, right? So I'm sure anybody that is been public speaking like I have, you find what I do, and I love to do it. I find friendly faces in the audience, and I look at them. I like people that smile at me and make me feel good on stage. And so I don't know if I answered your question, but
oh, you definitely did.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite person that you played with during your career?
No. I was so fortunate, Zach. I played with so many incredible people, so many people I still call friends, and we just had the best of times. It's funny though. I can tell you there's probably in all my time playing pro sports, 17 years, I can probably only count about 10 guys that I really don't like. And everybody else, maybe we didn't have the same sort of interests, or we didn't hang out a ton, but they weren't bad people. And that's pretty good considering all the people I played with. That I was very, very lucky.
Who was I forgot his name. He played for the Red Wings. They called him and I can take this out of here, but it was the Man, I think his name was. They just made a movie.
Oh, Derek Boogaard or Bob Probert.
Probert, there we go. Yeah, both of them were boogeymen, I guess, in a way.
Right. And I never had a chance to meet Boogaard, but I ran into Bob Probert on occasion, and just interesting guys. And wow. Yeah. That's the funny thing, I'm really glad to say that teams have sports psychologists and psychologists just in general for the teams and the players now, that the players can reach out. But it's still an ongoing thing to get people to open up and talk about it. And I think some of the younger players in the league, Zach, are more prone to share what they're going through. Whereas I have talked to some veteran guys that are not sure if what they share with the doctor might be used against them with, say, their club team or something. It clearly wouldn't be, because that would be a breach of trust by the doctor. But to fully disclose what the patient's going through, but nonetheless, we're making tons of progress, but not quite there yet.
Can we see it in the next 10 years? Can you see that going?
I hope so. And I've sort of used this line now for the last year. It kind of occurred to me there's something going on socially in our world, and I thought, wow, you know what, that group of people, they're doing really well. And I didn't really approve of what their message was, but their messaging was great. I said, you know what, they're getting loud, and they're getting heard because they're loud. And I think people with mental health, we need to get louder. We have to keep getting on the politicians and the governments, and let them know that what they've done so far, it's good, but it's not enough yet. And until we get people that have mental health issues, everybody with the access that they need, then we'll be in a good place. And I'm with you, Zach. It's not going to happen in 2 or 3 years, but my goal is, I hope in 5 or 10 that people that have do need to see somebody will have the ability to do so.
You opened up and you became vulnerable to the world. Were you scared to open up at the time?
I don't know. I don't really think so. It's kind of in my nature that way, and I'm also comfortable. I'm a crier. Like I cry at weddings. I'm cry when I'm happy.
I do as well, Kelly.
Yeah, right.
It's okay.
It's okay.
And look at us. We're two men talking about it's okay.
Oh yeah. I can cry 5-10 times at night watching TV. It's okay with me.
Hey, if it touches, it does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Like my eyes can get watery just thinking about it.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know. I've lost count how many times on these podcasts that we've been doing since the pandemic that I've teared up or, talked about something that just gets very emotional. It's cool. Yeah. Hey, I got to share you another story here. And I'm not trying to name drop, but a friend of mine Brett Wilson. He has this Brett and Brett golf tournament. It's just a small little tournament out in Invermere, and it's typically just 24 men. And we go out there for a couple of days and golf, and it's really fun. We share dinners at one night, and at the dinner, 24 grown men talk about mental health.
Love it.
It's the coolest thing, right? Like, you know, we're all open, we're sharing, and a few tears are shed, and it's good.
Yeah, I'm so happy we're doing this because
Right?
bottle it up. You're not. It eats you alive.
Yeah, it just does. Yeah, you're so right about that.
Especially right now in times like this, when you're alone. Yeah, it can be dark.
I think one thing the pandemic has sort of taught us that talking is good. I know a lot of people have shared their story with me, and and this is not an exaggeration, Zach. Every single day I either get a text message, an email, a phone call, or maybe have a coffee or a short conversation if I'm in line at my local Tim's getting my coffee, and somebody will say something. Even with my mask on, somebody might recognize me or my voice and say, hey, we really like what you guys are doing for mental health. So it's really great.
Is there something you're proud of yourself for?
Pardon me?
What are you proud of yourself?
Oh, that work that we're doing. Like I'm proud of my playing days. I'm proud of my broadcasting career, but clearly the number one thing I'm most happy about is the work our family has done talking about mental health. It is by far the best work we've done, and we're going to continue to do so.
And Caitlin's story is extremely inspiring, especially for this next generation. We can relate to that.
Sure.
So happy.
You know, it was really cool. About just over a year ago, just before we started really understanding about COVID and the numbers were picking up worldwide, before we had the lockdown and what we have now learned about the worldwide pandemic. It was in December of 2019, and two major oil and gas firms in Calgary, like big ones, they invited Kate and I to speak to their employees, and it was just so great because Kate tells her story really, really well and really impactful, really moving. And both the rooms, I think, had about 1,000 people, but even better, they were virtual. So one of the companies had, I think, 4,000 people across the country watching, and the other company, I think, had about 2,000 others watching. So it's very impactful, and she's doing such great work, and she's had so many public speaking gigs around Western Canada that it's really cool to see that you've got a daughter like that.
I appreciate your time today, Kelly. Thanks so much for this.
My pleasure, Zach. We really enjoyed it. I'm glad we had this great conversation.
Finally, right?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Two
guys talking about that for half an hour.